What is reality? Part 1.
Eastern mystics believe that this world is an illusion. This is true. They don't just believe that the world is unreal, an illusion, Maya. They know it is Maya, it is an illusion, a dream. But when they use the word samsara, world, they do not mean the objective world that science studies. No, not at all. They do not mean the world of trees, mountains, and rivers. No, not at all. They are referring to the world you create, weave within your mind, the wheel of the mind that keeps spinning and weaving continuously. Samsara has nothing to do with the external world. There are three things to remember. One is the external world, the objective world. The Buddha never spoke about it because it was not his concern. He was not an Albert Einstein. Then there is the second world, the world of the mind, the world that psychoanalysts, psychiatrists, and psychologists study. The Buddha would have a few things to say about it, not much, just a few things. In fact, just one, that it is an illusion, that it has no truth, whether objective or subjective, that it is in between. The first world is the objective world, which science studies. The second world is the world of the mind, which psychologists study. And the third world is your subjectivity, your inner realm, your inner self. The Buddha's guidance is towards the innermost core of your being, but you are so entangled with the mind. Unless he helps you to become untrapped from the mind, you will never know the third world, the real world, your inner nature. Therefore, he starts with the statement, "We are what we think." That is what everyone is, their mind. Everything we are arises from our thoughts. Because of this, the Buddha used a peculiar word. No one had ever done such a thing before or since. Mystics always use the word self to denote the innermost core of your being. The Buddha used the word non-self. The Buddha did not use the word self, Atta. He used its opposite, non-self, Anatta. He said that when the mind stops, no self remains. You have become the universe. You have transcended the boundaries of the ego. You are pure space, uncontaminated by anything. You're just a mirror reflection of the void. Chapter 1. The Crisis of Quantum Physics. Physics is the science that explores reality, specifically the material world. From its early days until recently, physics has viewed reality as the material world, meaning that it exists objectively, independent of human perception. Whether or not there is a conscious observer, reality as the material world continues to exist. Initially, this reality in physics comprised material objects moving in space and time, with space and time considered absolute attributes of reality. When Newton, a giant in the field of physics, introduced the concept of force along with the laws of classical mechanics, material was conceived as particles with mass and energy, moving in space and time according to these laws. This knowledge birthed a mechanistic worldview, describing large and small objects, stars, the sun, the moon, etc., all operating under the laws of classical mechanics. This mechanistic worldview was simple and easily understood, gaining acceptance and prevailing in science for nearly 300 years. Physics continued to evolve, discovering another form of matter called waves, which lack mass but carry energy, existing simultaneously as particles with mass and energy. Thus, matter exists in two incompatible forms, particles and waves. The study of physics progressed from large objects, macroscopic, to tiny ones, microscopic, leading to the development of atomic nucleus models. The goal was to thoroughly understand the smallest units of matter, the basic building blocks of the material world, which was considered the ultimate objective of physics. Quantum physics emerged with the expectation that it would answer the question, what is matter? What is this reality? However, the results of quantum physics defied scientists' expectations. Humanity had long assumed that reality existed independently of consciousness, human awareness. Humans, with their consciousness, were seen as observers of reality, separate from it. Even if humans died and their consciousness ceased, reality would continue to exist independently. But quantum physics revealed that the results of observation depend not only on the object being observed, but also on the observer. What reality is depends on the observer. Observed one way, reality is a particle. Observed another way, it is a wave. The nature of reality depends on how we ask it. This finding led scientists to conclude that consciousness influences reality, and that reality is not entirely independent of consciousness, contrary to long-standing assumptions. Some scientists even questioned whether consciousness creates reality when observing it. Is reality a product of consciousness? After more than 2,400 years of development, physics has provided a foundational understanding for natural sciences and engineering. Yet, at its peak, the answer to the question, what is reality? What is the material world? Remains elusive and increasingly complex. Physics circles back to its initial question. What is reality? What is matter? The very question early humanity pondered but could not answer. Consequently, many renowned scientists now assert that we do not truly know what matter is. This is the crisis of modern physics. This crisis is understood only by leading scientists who recognize that current science does not know what matter is or what reality is. Most of humanity, however, has assumed that reality is the objective material world. Reality is perceived as material, encompassing visible shapes and colors, sounds, a form of matter, smells, sense of matter, tastes, tactile sensations, hard, soft, hot, cold, and known attributes like size, length, sweetness, sourness, space, and time. Buddhist terminology calls these material world objects rupa, form, shabda, sound, gandha, smell, rasa, taste, sparsha, touch, and dharma, phenomena. Humanity has taken for granted that what they clearly perceive is material, what they react to, what they desire to possess, what brings them happiness or suffering in life is the material world. To say that we do not know what matter is at this point is considered absurd. This issue in physics has led scientists back to philosophy and ontology, raising the question of whether Buddhism can provide answers about reality in terms of ontology. Philosophy is divided into materialism and idealism, both considering reality as the material world. Materialism posits that matter is neither created nor destroyed, but merely changes forms. Matter comes first, and mind or spirit is a product of matter. Idealism posits that matter is created by an omnipotent God, a supreme spiritual force. Thus, spirit comes first and matter follows. Based on these axiomatic assumptions, which cannot be proven, materialism and idealism explain reality according to their predefined premises. Physics naturally began from a materialist viewpoint, but turns to idealism when faced with unexplained realities. For example, Newtonian mechanics suggested that the motion of the universe is due to inertia, which requires an initial push from God to maintain motion. When the genetic code in DNA was discovered, some scientists were astounded, unable to believe that the randomness of evolutionary theory could create such an intricate and complete code. They thought this must be the product of a superior intelligence. Who created this code? The most convincing and acceptable answer reverted to, it was made by God. Now, As quantum physics reveals that reality is not independent of the observer's consciousness, physics faces an ontological crisis. The answers from modern physics regarding ontology will fall into either materialism or idealism, based on predefined axioms that are essentially hypotheses. When modern physicists continue to explore the subatomic world, they still encounter the issue that these subatomic phenomena, the fundamental components of reality or experience, sometimes behave as particles and sometimes as waves. Therefore, they can only suggest that a subatomic particle can exhibit certain characteristics or behave in certain ways. While quantum theory seems practically accurate, as demonstrated in the development of lasers, semiconductors, supermarket scanners, and computer chips, its explanation of the universe remains a highly abstract mathematical description. Importantly, one must remember that mathematics is a symbolic language, a form of poetry using numbers and symbols instead of words to convey the underlying reality behind our conventional experience. Thus, all these are merely thoughts and logical reasoning, not the actual truth of reality, not the ultimate truth. What is reality? What did the Buddha proclaim? This is what the Buddha realized, a truth far different from human understanding, from science, and from the later Buddhist traditions. The Buddha articulated this insight extensively in the Brahmajala Sutta, part of the Digha Nikaya of Theravada Buddhism. With regard to this, the Tathagata discerns that these standpoints, thus seized, thus grasped at, lead to such and such a destination, to such and such a state in the world beyond. That the Tathagata discerns. And he discerns what is higher than that. And yet, discerning that, he does not grasp at it. And as he is not grasping at it, unbinding nibbuti is experienced right within. Knowing, as they have come to be, the origination, ending, allure, and drawbacks of feelings, along with the escape from feelings, the Tathagata, monks, through lack of clinging sustenance, is released. These monks are the Dhammas, deep, hard to see, hard to realize, tranquil, refined beyond the scope of conjecture, subtle to be experienced by the wise, that the Tathagata proclaims, having directly known and realized them for himself, and that those who, rightly speaking in praise of the Tathagata in line with what is factual, would speak. Chapter 2. The object of reality is sensation. First, we must understand that the term reality refers to a broad category encompassing all things and phenomena present at the moment. This includes the objects of reality, which are those things that are seen, heard, smelled, tasted, touched, imagined, or otherwise sensed. The question, what is reality, is essentially answered when we accurately and truthfully determine the objects of reality. Humanity has traditionally defined the objects of reality as the material world, consisting of the 6 sensory objects: form, sound, aroma, flavor, tactile sensation, and mental objects, as classified in Buddhist terminology. Additionally, in reality, there is the mind's direct awareness, including visual consciousness, auditory consciousness, olfactory consciousness, gustatory consciousness, tactile consciousness, and mental consciousness. Human understanding typically follows that. Visual consciousness perceives forms. Auditory consciousness hears sounds. Olfactory consciousness smells aromas. Gustatory consciousness tastes flavors. Tactile consciousness feels physical sensations. Mental consciousness perceives mental objects according to the principle of the six senses recognizing the six sensory objects, or the mind perceiving the external world. Thus, the objects of reality are the material world. For example, gustatory consciousness, the mind's awareness through the tongue, knows whether an apple is sweet or sour. Tactile consciousness, the mind's awareness through the body, knows whether a stone is heavy or light, rough or smooth, hard or soft, etc. However, when observed truthfully, phenomena are not as they seem. Reality consists of the mind's awareness and the object being known, not the material world of forms, sounds, aromas, flavors, tactile sensations, and mental objects. Reality is not pre-existing, permanent, or fixed anywhere. Instead, reality arises when the six internal media, belonging to humans, and the six external media, belonging to the world, interact, or precisely when they engage with each other according to the principle of dependent origination. Specifically, the internal and external bases are two interacting factors that serve as the cause, and this interaction results in the simultaneous emergence of consciousness and the object being known. 1. The eye and form interact to simultaneously generate eye consciousness and the sensation of images. Eye consciousness has the function of registering, seeing, the sensation of images, not the forms as traditionally misunderstood by humanity. 2. The ear and sound interact to simultaneously generate ear consciousness and the sensation of sound. Ear consciousness has the function of registering, hearing, the sensation of sound, not the sounds as traditionally misunderstood by humanity. 3. The nose and aroma interact to simultaneously generate nose consciousness and the sensation of smell. Nose consciousness has the function of registering, smelling, the sensation of smell, not the aromas as traditionally misunderstood by humanity. 4. The tongue and flavor interact to simultaneously generate tongue consciousness and the sensation of taste. Tongue consciousness has the function of registering, tasting the sensation of taste, not the flavors as traditionally misunderstood by humanity. 5. The body and tactile sensation interact to simultaneously generate body consciousness and the sensation of touch. Body consciousness has the function of registering, feeling, the sensation of touch, not the tactile sensations as traditionally misunderstood by humanity. 6. The mind and mental objects. Mental objects are the information stored in memory, interact to simultaneously generate mind consciousness and the sensation of mental objects. Mind consciousness has the function of registering, knowing, the sensation of mental objects, not the mental objects themselves. In summary, reality is defined by the interaction between the internal and external bases, which leads to the arising of consciousness and sensation. This perspective shifts the focus from an independent material world to the dynamic interplay between the observer and the observed as per the principle of dependent origination. For instance, if there is a tongue in a healthy state and an apple as the two factors but no contact between them, we cannot perceive the sweetness. When the tongue contacts the apple, the sensation of sweetness arises, and simultaneously, gustatory consciousness perceives this sweetness. However, the same apple, when in contact with a diseased tongue, will result in a bitter sensation. Thus, the reality perceived as sweet or bitter is a mental sensation, not the physical sweetness or bitterness of the apple, which is a misunderstanding by humanity. Similarly, consider the hand and an ice cube. Without contact, we cannot feel any coldness. When the hand contacts the ice cube, The sensation of coldness arises, and tactile consciousness perceives this coldness. Therefore, the reality perceived as cold is a mental sensation, not the physical coldness of the ice cube, which is a common misconception. The most challenging observation is seeing that when the eye contacts forms, eye consciousness and the sensation of images arise simultaneously. Eye consciousness perceives the sensation of images, not the forms themselves as humanity traditionally believes. If eye consciousness perceived forms, then a four-seater car made of steel would always appear the same, regardless of whether it is 4 meters, 40 meters, or 400 meters away. But this is not the case. At 4 meters, the car appears large. At 40 meters, it appears medium-sized. And at 400 meters, it appears as small as a matchbox. The truth is that the objects seen are the sensations of images arising from the interaction of the car with the eye at different distances. Science has clearly explained that the same tree, material, appears differently to humans, dogs, flies, and cats because of the varying images and colors perceived by the different structures of their eyes. The perceived reality is the sensation of images, a mental phenomenon, not the external object. No species can perceive the material tree itself. These are profound, subtle, and difficult to see and understand, serene, wonderful, and beyond mere theoretical reasoning. Only the wise can comprehend them. This is what the Buddha realized: the direct knowledge of the arising and ceasing of sensations, or the direct knowledge of the 6 sense bases. The Buddha realized that reality is sensation, not the material world. Thus, the objects of reality are the 6 types of sensations: visual sensation, auditory sensation, olfactory sensation, gustatory sensation, tactile sensation, and mental sensation, referred to in Buddhist terminology as feelings, Vedana. Reality can be categorized into these 6 types of feelings arising from the interaction of the 6 sense bases with the 6 sense objects. Additionally, reality can be classified into 3 types of feelings based on their nature: pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling. The objects of reality are not pre-existing, not permanent, and not fixed anywhere. They only arise when there is sense contact, the sense bases interacting with the sense objects. On a basic level of observation, we see that when there is sense contact, feeling arises. When sense contact ceases, feeling ceases. Hence, feelings are arising and ceasing, impermanent. Feelings arise from the contact between the sense bases and the sense objects. So feelings are neither of the sense bases, the sense organs, nor of the sense objects. Thus, they are ownerless and unpossessed. Similarly, the direct awareness that perceives or knows the different types of feelings also arises from the contact between the sense bases and the sense objects. Thus, they are also impermanent, ownerless, and unpossessed. When the sense bases and the sense objects do not interact, reality does not arise, and reality does not exist. This is when we are in deep sleep without dreams, unconscious in an accident, or deeply anesthetized during surgery, because although the 6 sense objects are present, the 6 sense bases, the different types of nerve cells, are not functioning. Thus, there is no sense contact. Everything humans perceive daily, termed by words such as big, small, square, round, long, short, hard, soft, rough, smooth, hot, cold, salty, sweet, sour, spicy, man, woman, cars, houses, happiness, suffering, the moon, the sun, are all sensations arising from the contact of the 6 sense bases with the 6 sense objects, not the material world as commonly misunderstood by humanity. Distinguishing 3 objects clearly. 1. Humans, who are traditionally considered the observing subject, comprise the 6 sense bases: eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, brain nerve cells. 2. The world consists of 6 objects: forms, sounds, aromas, flavors, tactile sensations, and mental objects, considered the observable reality. 3. The actual reality of sensations perceived by humans daily arises from the interaction between humans, the 6 sense bases, and the material world, the 6 sense objects. It does not pre-exist anywhere. It is impermanent, ownerless, and unpossessed, non-self. The reality of sensations belongs to the mind, not the material world as mistakenly thought by materialistic philosophy. It arises from the contact between the sense bases and the sense objects, not created by God or the intrinsic mind as misunderstood by idealistic philosophy. The truth about reality is that the mind's awareness and the object being known arise simultaneously, contrary to the materialistic misconception that the object exists first and the mind's awareness follows, matter precedes mind, or the idealistic misconception that the mind's awareness exists first and the object follows, mind precedes matter. Quantum physics, when observing reality, finds it indeterminate, with the observed result dependent not only on the object but also on the observer. Why? Because the observed reality in quantum physics is the reality of sensations, not the material world. This reality is the result of the interaction between humans, the 6 sense bases, and the material world, the 6 sense objects. Naturally, the observed reality depends on human factors, world factors, and the interaction between them. Thus, quantum physics concludes, the observed result or observed reality depends not only on the object but also on the observer. Reality includes not only the objects but also the crucial third factor, the mind's awareness, or the knowing that knows reality. In the next podcast, we will introduce you to 2 crucial concepts that the Buddha realized: direct awareness and conscious awareness.